Hello, welcome back. This is Tribeca New Music. I'm Maya, and I'm here today with Charles Peck, who is our composer competition winner for 2023. Hi, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited for the concert. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, we're so excited to have you on September 8th at the Domena Center. And we just wanted to get a little bit more about your background and some advice for our composers because part of Tribeca New Music is really, encouraging young musicians to become composers. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your musical journey, your path into composition.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, my background kind of growing up was like very classically trained. I was a French horn player. Um, and to me, like that, the process of playing horn was always like, your teacher puts a new piece on your stand and you start working on that kind of music. And it wasn't until like high school that I picked up electric bass and guitar, and those instruments don't have all of that sort of baggage with them. I felt like immediately when I picked that up, it was like, let me write something and play it with my friends kind of thing. So that kind of opened up composition to me. And, I kind of slowly had this merging of classical worlds with the composition that I had from electric bass. And that kind of led me to composition, which is what I've been doing full steam for a couple decades now.
That's awesome. And I saw on your website that you did music industry at Drexel. So what kind of was that major? Because I've never heard that before. I mean, I've definitely heard like music administration, which is what I went into. But sort of why did you decide on that path instead of just composition or something else?
Yeah, it mostly had to do with the fact that sort of my sort of late realization that composition was an option. Because like I said, I was like in the middle of high school, basically, when I realized that I could kind of focus on that. And so at the time I was writing a lot of music and was in the recording studio to record these pieces. And that was just, what seemed like a career path. So I went into that. I do love spending time in the studio and like working with tech and all that. So that was what I ended up going to in my undergrad at Drexel's music industry program has a recording path, a tech path, or a business path. So I was on the tech side. So I started doing that, but then basically very quickly into that degree, we had like songwriting classes, scoring to picture classes, all these sort of composition classes. And that was like what got me really excited. And so I ended up finishing out that degree, but the whole time I was like taking extra composition lessons, composition classes, and, knew by the end of it, I was going to go on to that. But the result is that I have like a lot of tech experience because of that, which I've really utilized my whole career. So I'm glad that I, discovered things a little bit late, actually.
Sometimes it can be scary for people, because with classical music, you start so young at 4 or 5, and then people don't think that they can get into it. And I think a lot of the pandemic, I found that a lot of my peers were really getting into music technology and finding out that they can actually do a lot more themselves, which is such a great thing. So what software do you use? Is the question.
Yeah. So yeah, there's so much cool software out there. So like Max MSP is a really common kind of piece of software for composers, but there's also like a sort of a open source version of that called Pure Data, which is sort of like, one of the founders of Pure Data ended up working on Max MSP. So they're very similar programs, but you can also like run them on little microcomputers. They're called microcontrollers, and that I've used that to sort of like design some electronic instruments. So that would be something like an Arduino or something like that I've experimented with. Ableton, Pro Tools.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, Ableton is honestly like I think a super cool new program. I mean, it's not new at this point, but I like when I was in music industry learning recording, everything was Pro Tools. That was like the industry standard. But Ableton just has so many cool features. It's sort of geared towards DJs, but it's much more capable than that. So, yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel that your classical background has sort of influenced maybe the more technical or, more audio enhancement and design kind of aspects of your work?
Yeah, I think that it's all like interconnected. I feel like part of composing is trying to figure out like how, like all the things that you're interested in and how they can sort of come together. So when I sort of like drifted along this path that I have this classical stuff and I have this like tech and not, non-classical stuff I'm interested in. And when I was starting to realize I wanted to do composition, I just, thought then that was like, I got to write notes on a page, and that's like I write for a string quartet. And so I was like writing sort of to that style. And I feel like I've been most of the past, many years of my career has been sort of like realizing how these things really interact, already very much in society, but also in sort of what I'm interested in composing as well.
That's super cool. I really like that idea of the intertwining, because I do also sometimes separate a lot of my interests with my music. I play violin. And so being able to like notice that actually everything's interconnected is really cool. So speaking of groupings, because you said string quartet, I noticed on your website that you do a lot of large ensemble and chamber ensemble work. And I just wanted to know why you chose that direction. Is it something to do with community? Is it something to do with the melding of sounds?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first time I ever had an orchestra performance was like the most vulnerable I've ever felt. Like something about sitting there and having 80, 100 people basically do what you ask them simultaneously is it was super cool. And so I've always been sort of enamored with that ensemble experience. And just I think like on like a compositional perspective, I love being able to make more sounds. Having a larger palette gives you a lot more capacity. So it's kind of a mix of a lot of things. Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, I definitely love chamber music because of that. So do you feel what would you describe your palette as? I know that's a hard question sometimes.
I think kind of the thing that I've been latching on to in maybe like the last like 7 or 8 years of my work is trying to think about pretty deliberately about the electronic sounds that I love and make acoustic instruments do them. So there are so many sounds that are at this point familiar to you, regardless of what genre you like. A fat kick and an 808 kick drum is in the air. A filter sweep, a vocoder, like all these sounds are things that we're aware of and familiar with, and to me, I really love the sound of. So I've been trying to realize these things that are pretty distinctly electronic with live players, which is to me helped me sort of like expand what I think a chamber ensemble can do, but also just feels like a relevant modern language to me. So I like that element of it.
That's great. So is Arcade, which is the piece, is that why you named it Arcade? Because it was such familiar sounds that everyone will know?
I wanted to have a very digital concept, right? So that everything about Arcade is like bells and whistles and neon lights, and it's all electricity, kind of humming. And I wanted to kind of infuse the music with that same level of activity. So the a lot of the material in the piece is like absolutely like breakneck speed. So context for any lay listeners, like if you're writing a pop song or most songs that you've heard, even art songs, a lot of times the harmonic changes might happen every 2 beats, every 4 beats, something like that. That's a huge oversimplification, obviously. But there's a common sort of maybe pace of harmonic change. And in this, if we take the comparison of 2 beats, then this is 8 times as fast. The chords change every 16th note. So super quick pace of change. And then they're like double bowing almost all of those changes. So it's like tons of physical energy and tons of harmonic energy, and trying to like capture again like that arcade level of activity.
When you wrote this, what you knew it was going to be a string quartet. How's been working with the Bergamot Quartet? Have you been working with them on this?
Oh yeah, they're awesome. You're gonna love them.
I'm so excited. They seem incredible.
Yeah, they're fantastic players. They have great energy, and they're super open to whatever I would kind of bring to the table. We kind of wrote this in the pandemic originally, and so we're not like workshopping much at that time, but they've been awesome, and I've played the piece a bunch since then. So I've heard them play it live and made some tweaks and kind of got it really, the piece kind of purring like I want it to, So yeah.
They're great. And your process with them, how do you interact with the musicians that are bringing your compositions to life?
For the composers listening, you have all kinds of different interactions depending on the commission. Sometimes it's like you literally show up and meet the players, and the concert is that day, and so for that reason, it's really important that you're like thoughtful about the score and making sure that you're communicating as much as you can through the score, and that everything works well for the players. But I'm like always most satisfied when I can have like a workshop with the players to sort of chat about the piece, feel it out. Sometimes something in your head is like, oh, this is going to be this sound awesome, and then you're like, oh, like the balance is really weird here, so I have to like adjust to make sure that that's going to work. And the other way happens too. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, this section is going to be cool, and then you hear it live and you're like, man, that just like pops in a way I wasn't expecting. So you never, I don't know, I've been doing it for a while, and I still feel like I never quite know what exactly what's going to happen in the session sometimes.
That's cool. Music can change in whoever plays it, which I think is a great thing to find out as well. So you're a professor as well. And there's some young composers that will see this interview. And so I wanted to ask, how would you recommend finding your way as a composer in this type of world? What advice do you have for, finding their voice? And then also, how do you make a living doing what you love? It can be tough.
Yeah, sure. So I think the first thing I would say is that there's maybe like 2 elements that I think you can focus on privately. So like one is to like try to experiment as much as you can with your own music, so until you sort of like start to find the thing that really feels particular to you. If you're thinking about like who's going to commission you to write a piece, understand that there are like already thousands of great composers out there. So trying to feel like you're saying something that, you don't feel like you're trying to copy somebody else's music you love, or, you want to say something that feels like genuine to you, so that when someone's deciding who to commission, they go like, nobody else does this sound. So you only find that, I feel like, through experimentation. So trying that a lot. And then the other thing is just to find the people that resonate with you, like personally and musically, so that mostly I'm thinking about performers, but also like other composer colleagues and everything, because what you want is like people that love playing your music, they're going to play it over and over again, and that you can feel like you forge a connection with, where you don't just write maybe one piece for them, but you write maybe many over the course of many years. I think those kind of relationships have been the most rewarding to me. I guess to answer your other question then about making a living, I think it's obviously a very tricky question, but I think doing those other things that I just mentioned are definitely going to help with that. but also sort of just trying to apply to as many things as possible is something that is really helpful for me, just to feel like helps you sort of find those other people that you connect with. If you're always applying to call for scores, you're going to have a lot of people like just getting their ears on your stuff. And if they pick your piece, it's because they found something that really resonated with them. And so that can be something that you kind of cultivate in that interaction and beyond it. So applying to as many things, I think, is like a great way to start finding that career.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So last question is, what music are you listening to these days, and what's on your playlist, and why?
Yeah. I would say the things that I'm listening to right now, I'm working on this, actually a big new piece for Bergamot Quartet, and this percussionist Ji Jung. It's this whole thing that has like video, a big like recorded video element with them, so they're sort of like playing with themselves kind of thing, which I'm really excited about. But I'm experimenting with a bunch of stuff, including some square wave synth sounds, which is bringing me to Tristan Parrish, who's a composer known for his one-bit music, which is like square wave and pulse wave music. And then because I'm working on video stuff, I've been looking at some pretty interesting video composers. Florent Geese is one of them. He does these really cool video sampler things, which is in the world that I'm working on. So I've been listening to that lately.
I love multimedia performances. They're super cool. And I love Bergamot Quartet's visual album. I really enjoy seeing the melding of that. So I'm very excited for your new work, and I hope to see it at some point.
Yeah, keep an eye on next fall. It's coming.
Okay, I'll be there. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me. One last time, can you introduce the concert and what Bergamot will be playing?
Yeah, Friday, September 8th, they're playing at the Menace Center in New York. They're playing my piece, Arcade, which is this wild barrel of a piece. So come check it out. It's gonna be a fun ride.